Welcome to In Dialogue. The host of this fascinating segment is Sir Bharat Bhargava. Each segment of In Dialogue is eye-catching, very informative, and quite touches the heart. Today, Mr. Bhargava will explain to you and I the actual epic, the world vast, Ramayan. Let's see.
Namaskar, I'm Bharat Bhargava. Thanks to In Dialogue and best wishes to you and your family on the occasion of Ram Navami. Today I will narrate the story of Ramayana in brief. So, many of our viewers, especially those who grew up in India, know this story very well. With them, it would be just an annual occasion to enjoy and celebrate it together. My hope is that I will be able to give a taste of this story to those growing up here, so they will decide to pursue a longer version of it. According to Ramayan, Dashrath was a popular ruler of the prosperous kingdom of Kaushal, whose capital was Ayodhya. Dashrath had 3 wives and 4 sons. Ram was the son of Kaushalya, Bharat the son of Kekai, and the twins Lakshman and Shatrughan were sons of Sumitra. Growing up, the boys were educated in scriptures and being Kshatriya princes in warfare. A great sage, Vishwamitra, lived in a forest where Rakshasas or demons used to cause disturbances during religious ceremonies and desecrate the places of worship. The sage knew that Ram had taken birth, so he went to Dashrath and told him about the demons and requested him to send Ram with him. The king understood and agreed. Ram and Lakshman both went and killed the demons. They also received instructions in archery and supernatural weapons from Vishwamitra. In a neighboring city of Mithila, the king Janak was organizing a swayamvar for his daughter Sita to be able to choose her bridegroom. Vishwamitra took Ram and Lakshman to Mithila. Upon arriving, the brothers set out to discover the beautiful city and also visited Janak's garden, where Sita ji got a glimpse of Ram, fell in love, and prayed to Devi Gauri to help her attain Ram as her husband. A large number of princes came to the Swayamvar as suitors. Upon completion of various rituals, Sita ji placed the varmala or the garland around Ram's neck. Janak informed Dashrath, who gladly gave his consent to the marriage and came to Mithila with his retinue or the Bharat, and the grand wedding took place. At the same time, Bharat, Lakshman and Shatrughan also married Sita's sister and cousins. There was a great celebration and much rejoicing in Ayodhya also. As Dashrath was growing older, he decided to retire and to give his throne to Ram. Queens Kaushalya, Kekai and Sumitra all loved Ram and were thrilled about the news of his coronation. However, Queen Kekai's wicked maid Manthara poisoned Kekai's mind, telling her that she would be relegated to a lower status once Ram became the king. She got confused and distraught and finally agreed to a plan Manthara had devised. Kekai went to her anger room called Kop Bhavan. Dashrath came and gently asked her what was troubling her. Kekai angrily said, "Do you remember having promised me to do any 2 things I ever asked for? Well, are you going to keep your promise?" To which Dashrath said, "Raghukul reet sada chali aaye, प्राण जाए पर वचन न जाए." So, in that case, Kekai said, "I ask you to let Bharat be crowned and to exile Ram for 14 years. Unable to hear what he had heard, Dashrath fell down unconscious. Kekai summoned Ram, who arrived immediately. She told Ram what had happened. Ram bowed his head to Kekai with reverence and said, "I am happy to fulfill my father's promise, but mother, I would have gladly gone to the forest even if you ordered me to do so." Lakshman, a model of love, devotion and bravery, was in tears when he heard about it and said to Ram, "If you have to go to the forest, take me with you." Sita also begged to go. Ram agreed with both. Lakshman's wife Urmila also wanted to go with Lakshman, but he apologized and said if she accompanied him, he would not be able to fulfill his dharma of protecting Ram and Sita. The pain of separation was too much for Dashrath, and soon after he passed away, crying Ram's name. Bharat, who had been gone to his maternal uncle's place, was asked to return to Ayodhya without disclosing the details. Bharat was stunned and greatly distressed at what had happened. He chastised his mother for her action and went to Kaushalya, who received him with love and said, "Bharat, the kingdom is waiting for you. No one will oppose you." He burst into tears and said he could not bear the thought of taking the throne with his brothers in exile. He immediately decided to go to the forest and to bring Ram back to Ayodhya. By this time, Ram, Sita and Lakshman had reached Chitrakoot, about 170 miles from Ayodhya. Ignoring the structure in this picture, I was told that this is the location Ram, Sita and Lakshman lived, at least for part of their time, in Chitrakoot. Bharat Shatrughan went to the forest. Other members of the royal family and scores of citizens also joined them. Upon finding Ram, Bharat begged Ram to return to Ayodhya and take the throne. Despite all his pleading, Ram lovingly told him that their dharma would not allow ignoring their father's word. With much sadness and hurt, Bharat accepted it and asked Ram to give him his khanau or sandals to take back to Ayodhya. This is supposed to be the spot in Chitrakoot where this famous incident called Bharat Milap took place. Bharat put the sandals on his head and returned to Ayodhya. He placed the sandals on the throne and reluctantly started carrying out the duties of the kingdom as regent in Ram's place, living like a hermit in a cottage. After that, Ram moved to Panchvati into deep forest about 106 miles from the present-day Mumbai. There, Ram and Lakshman destroyed other Rakshasas who disturbed the sages in their meditation. Shurpanakha, the sister of Raman, who lived nearby, once saw Ram and came over and asked him to marry her. Ram was amused and suggested that she ask Lakshman. Shurpanakha approached Lakshman, who also rebuffed her. She was furious. She turned into her huge demon form and attempted to kill Sita. Lakshman swiftly intervened and cut off her nose. By the way, this was the same location where present-day Nasik is situated. Nasik means nose. She went to Ravan's palace crying and told him about the incident. Ravan was outraged. Shurpanakha also told Ravan how beautiful Sita was, and he decided to abduct her. He hatched a plot with demon Marich, who had the power to change himself into any form. Marich turned into a beautiful golden deer and began grazing near Ram's cottage. Entranced by its beauty, Sita requested Ram to get the deer for her. Ram, though aware that this was a ploy by the demons, chased the deer anyway. When Ram hit Marich with an arrow, he mimicked in Ram's voice and shouted, "Oh, Lakshman!" Sita asked Lakshman to go and help Ram. Lakshman said Ram is invincible, but obeyed her wish. Before leaving, he drew a protection line called Lakshman Rekha and requested Sita to stay behind it. Soon, disguised as a hermit, evil Ravan came and tricked her into crossing the Rekha and forcibly carried her off. When Ram returned and did not find Sita, he was broken-hearted. Ram and Lakshman went looking for Sita. On the way, they met Vanar chief Sugriv and asked for his help in finding Sita. Sugriv formed an army composed of the community of Vanars and other tribals. Sita had dropped her ornaments when she was being taken away. Ram showed them to Lakshman to confirm they were Sita's. Lakshman could only recognize the anklets. When asked why, he said he had never looked at Sita above her feet. They were able to trace the path and concluded that Sita was taken southward. On the way, someone confirmed that Ravan had taken Sita to Lanka. They went deep south, but then did not know how to cross the ocean in front of them. Hanuman was the son of Pavan, the wind god, and had a gift from his father. One of the army leaders, Jamwant, reminded Hanumanji of his abilities, and as an ardent bhakt of Ram, he was so pleased to be given the responsibility of determining Sita's whereabouts and serve Ram. He made a long leap for crossing the ocean. After overcoming some obstacles along the way, Hanuman reached Lanka. He went through every chamber of the palace quietly but did not see Sita. Finally, he saw her in Ashok Vatika, one of Ravan's gardens. Sita was surrounded by female demons or Rakshasis. Hanuman hid on a tree and watched her from above. She was in deep distress, crying and praying to God. Slowly, when the Rakshasis drifted away, he dropped the ring that Ram had given in front of Sita. Sita saw it and was worried how anybody got Ram's ring. Hanumanji came forward and bowed to her, and she was wondering if he was also one of the demons in disguise. So Hanumanji said, Ram doot mein mat janki, satya sapat karuna nidhan ki. Mother Sita, I swear by Ram that I am his messenger. Sita was pleased and blessed Hanumanji with many kind words. Hanuman assured her that this time Ram will come to rescue her. He asked Sita ji to give some memento to take with him, Jaise Raghunayak Mohidina. She gave her necklace to Hanuman. Hanuman returned, went to Ram, and gave him that necklace in his hand and gave the account of Sita's condition. Ram burst into tears and said, Hanuman, you have done what no one else could have done. What can I do for you? Hanuman prostrated before Ram and sought his divine blessings. Ram and the entire army were eager to go to Lanka. There was still the problem of how to cross the ocean and reach Lanka. Using their special abilities, Nal and Neel had other members of army put Ram's name on stones and trees which floated, and a causeway to Lanka was built. Ram's army crossed the bridge and arrived in Lanka. Ram sent Angad, the son of Sugriv, to tell Ravan to return Sita or face destruction. Ravan became angry and asked him to get out of the palace. With that, preparation for the war began. A ferocious war took place, and Ravan lost a large part of his army and his family members. Hearing that, Ravan himself came forward. Following a fierce fight, Ravan's chariot was smashed and Ravan was wounded. Ravan stood helplessly in front of Ram, to which Ram said, Go, rest now, and be back to resume the fight. After more fighting, Ram was again in the battlefield. Finally, Ram pulled his Brahmastra, and repeating the mantras taught to him by Guru Vasishtha, he hurled it with all his might towards Ravan. Ravan fell dead from his chariot. As you know, this is the day celebrated at Dashera every year for the victory of good over evil. Ram and Sita had reunited. 14 years were over, so they ascended on an air chariot, Pushpak Viman, along with Lakshman to return to Ayodhya. Hanuman was sent ahead to tell Bharat about their return. Bharat had been counting days, shedding tears for 14 years. He rushed to Ayodhya to tell the citizens of the great news. The citizens of Ayodhya was bursting with joy and lined up on both sides of the street to welcome Ram, Sita and Lakshman. They shouted, Shri Ramchandra ki Jai, and Ram was coronated. Because it was the dark night of Amavasya or new moon, all the householders and businesses lighted up the town with deepaks in celebration. This day since then is celebrated as Diwali throughout India and many parts of the world. The fireworks, feasts, sweets, gifts, beautiful new clothes, vibrant colors, fairs, puppet shows, elephants, camel rides, and so on this Diwali are reenactment of that glorious, joyful day in Ayodhya. Ram's rule, Ram Raj, has been described in glorious terms about being an ideal time in history when there was peace and prosperity and everybody followed his or her dharma. इस सुखद राम चर्चा करने का अवसर देने के लिए धन्यवाद. जय श्री राम.
Ramayan.